Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to week 2 of BUAD 200 digital marketing. This week we're going to have a look at data analytics and user personas. So basically, where we get data from, how we use it, what's important for different websites, as well as how we create and craft a user persona around that. So let's jump into it. Just quick having a look at our schedule here. We can see week 2, we are talking about analytics and digital target markets, which is from chapter 3 of the Stu Kent book. So make sure you do quiz 3 week. Next week, we'll be having a look at digital strategy and web design. Just a couple of the topic objectives here. What are the best KPIs for a website? How do we identify areas of improvement for e-commerce sites? What are the objectives, goals, and measurements for digital campaigns? What are some of the important web analytics and data? And then how do we analyze that to create better strategies and understand our web visitors? So just starting off with a couple of questions. How many smart devices do you own? Smart watches, smart TVs, smartphones, smart security, smart fridges. Think about in your household, how many smart devices are actually in there? And how much information are those smart devices actually pulling? What type of information, what type of data of yours is available on the internet? You might think, oh, it's just my name, my email, maybe my address. But then think about all of the other things when you're on a website, how long you're on the website, what pages you go to, what things you engage and interact with, what you've liked and shared. If you think about the smart devices, when you turn your lights on and off, what times you watch TV. There is millions and millions of data points available from all of the different smart devices and all of the different ways that we use technology these days. And of course, that leads to the third question here is how we are actually targeted with ads because of this information. So there's companies collecting all of this different data and then using it to create strategies to target us with it. So when we talk about data analytics, we're talking about finding all of the relevant data for our company and then using it strategically. Now, once we come up with a strategy of how to use our data that we've collected, we want to obviously monitor the user behavior and how our campaigns, our digital marketing campaigns, perform. So we want to look at the analytics and the metrics that we're getting back from our campaign performance, so we can see what's working and what's not working. And if we track that over time, we'll be able to see trends and patterns that pop up, and that's going to help us actually design our future campaigns. That can include things like purchasing history, our engagement with ads, our website visits, CTR, our search intent, and our churn rates. And if people don't know what a churn rate is, that's how many people unsubscribe from our marketing campaigns. An email campaign, for example, you can unsubscribe from, right? So that would be part of the churn rate. And then A/B testing. We'll have a look at what A/B testing is, and we'll introduce that in this lesson as well. So we'll just have a look at some analytics in action with Netflix. How a company like Netflix has created a streaming show using different types of analytics. So let's have a look here. We will play this and just watch it as we go.
Netflix is an American provider of on-demand internet streaming media. Once you log in and pay your monthly fee, movies you can select can be watched instantly through your computer or gaming system. Netflix recently revolutionized the way television content is created for audiences, and they did that using analytics. They first started by collecting data, lots of it, lots and lots of it. Since they had access to the viewing preferences of all their members, this put Netflix in a great position to predict what kind of people want to watch what in which genre.
Netflix's vast analysis led them to the conclusion that David Fincher, the director of The Social Network, was very popular. The British version of The House of Cards, a political television drama from the 90s, had been well received by their existing viewers. and that the viewers of both David Fincher and the British House of Cards also watch films starring Kevin Spacey.
Each of these very individual factors had to contain a certain volume of users. Netflix had a lot of users in each category. This weighed in heavily when Netflix ultimately then made the decision to buy the rights to the show and create an American version of House of Cards.
But that's not where the analytics ended.
Netflix further customized the experience by having different advertisements and promotions for the series tailored to different types of viewers. While Kevin Spacey's fans saw a lot of Kevin Spacey in the promotions, fans of the director were reminded of his critically acclaimed films. So did all of this work? A resounding yes! It brought in 2 million new US subscribers in the first quarter of 2013, a 7% increase over the previous quarter. It also brought in 1 million new subscribers from elsewhere in the world. If we were to go just by the production figures alone, just these 3 million new subscribers almost reimbursed Netflix the cost of creating the show.
Okay, very interesting example there of analytics in action with Netflix. Obviously, we see the company collecting a lot of different analytics on their users, what their preferences are, what directors they like, what actors they like, what genres they like, and then creating a show purely based on putting all of those different analytics together and creating a new product that way. Not only that, they then created their ads, and we saw an example of A/B testing there. So for one audience, they put out an A version of an ad targeting people who like Kevin Spacey, and another version they had a B version, which was targeting people that like David Fincher. So then they can look at those two and see, how those two compare, what type of analytics they get back from that. So they're using those A/B testing and then obviously monitoring those analytics as they go to create an overall picture and a very successful show, and then obviously very successful marketing over time with that show. Okay, jumping into where we actually find the data, where we actually get data from, one of the areas that we could start with is IoTs. Now, if you're not familiar with that term before, that stands for the Internet of Things, and it basically encapsulates all smart devices. So we mentioned that before: smartwatches, smartphones, smart TVs, smart fridges, smart security, smart lights, smart cars. Everything is going smart these days. Everything is collecting data on you and your behavior. And that information is all getting sent back to companies who are collecting it and using it to create these user profiles. So IoTs are a pretty important part of collecting that information. When we think about websites and how websites are actually tracking information, obviously cookies is a huge part of that. People have probably all heard about cookies before, but essentially what's happening with cookies is there is a code that is embedded in the back of your website, and when somebody goes to the front of the website and loads that up, that code starts tracking information such as the pages that you go to, how much time you spend on the site, how you interact with the site, like links you click on, information that you view, your user preferences, and cart items as well. So whatever you put in cart on an e-commerce site, and then obviously your demographics like age, gender, and location. We also see some of the tracking being done by larger companies like Google, for example, when we get tracking analytics that are put into your website. So Google Analytics, if we just bring that up here, we'll look at things like your behavior, your change over time, your frequency of interactions, your lifetime value and engagement. And then when Google is collecting information, they think about their ABC, which is the audience. Who are the people? Who are the users? They get information about the users, what their behavior is, their acquisition and engagement, how they're interacting with your website, and then how that information is converted or the monetization of that data. Here's a bit of more information on Google Analytics. There's an Academy site that you can go to, which has lots of information on Google Analytics. There's actually a demo site you can go to as well that looks at Google's merchandise. So it's actually a fully functioning, real life Google Analytics site that's set up based on Google's merchandise being sold around the world. So it's got all of the data, all of the analytics based on that merchandise. So it's a really good example, a really good sample of how Google Analytics work, what type of information you can get back from it, and how to use it. So highly recommend, if you are interested in looking more at analytics, to go to the Google Analytics demo site and have a play around there and get lots of information back from that. We're not going to go into Google Analytics too much because it is just one tool amongst many. So there's lots of different ways to get those analytics. When we're thinking about big data and the numbers, the amount of analytics and data that we can actually get from the web, we started off with 1 byte, is essentially 1 character, your A, B, or C, for example. Then we moved up to kilobytes, which we've kind of surpassed now. We're more into the megabyte realm. Most people sort of day to day, the average user would be probably in the megabyte realm, but a lot of people getting into gigabytes. And now even terabytes. So a lot of people have, 2 to 10 terabytes of storage in their computers to store movies and songs and all of the data they're creating. When we get to bigger companies, we're talking about petabytes, exabytes, which we can see there is all of the written works of humanity, a zettabyte, all digital data in 2010, and then there's still theoretical yottabyte. We haven't quite reached that amount of data yet, but it's gonna pop up sooner or later. When we try and contextualize that, guys, 1.7 megabytes is how much on average the average person creates of data. Now you might be like, I don't create data, but every time you put a comment into a comment section, that is creating data. So every time you put a post on social media, that is data. So the average person is putting up 1.7 megabytes of data per second. Daily on Facebook, there's 16 terabytes of data created. Google manages 20 petabytes per day. That's people searching for information, people's products and websites coming up in the search menu. 400 exabytes is all of the web data created daily. So across all sites, there's 400 exabytes. Now, when we think about 1 exabyte, that's all of the written works of humanity. So we're creating 400 times that every day, which is quite crazy to think about. And then if we look at 2025, 181 zettabytes. So that's a huge amount of information and data available all around the web. Which brings us to key performance indicators. So when we're thinking about digital marketing and when we're thinking about strategizing our companies and how we use digital marketing, we've got to go in and pick out what are the most important indicators or metrics that we should be looking at that tell us how we're doing, how our performance is going. So we've got our KPIs, our key performance indicators, which can include things like the visitors. So that's your traffic. Going back to week 1, your most important goals should be traffic. Order value, that comes under conversion. So remember, conversion was a big important goal as well. We could track things like location. That's good for strategy. Knowing where people are is very important. How much they engage with your content is going to be important. And then if we look at this larger view, we can break it down by the different functions of websites. So for an e-commerce site, you might be looking at sessions or visits, unique visits. The conversion rate, obviously, we mentioned, is quite important. The average order value is important because if you've got, let's say, you're selling products on your website for $60 each, and you find out that the average order value on your website is about $100, you can see there, to get people to buy another product and get it up to $120, If you put a promotion in there, you might entice people to add another thing to their cart, and then you're upping your average order value overall, which is great. Average revenue per session is really important because you need to know, how much money you're making and how much money you're spending for your digital marketing. Average revenue per user, also important. When we're talking about lead generation sites, the lead conversion rate is important. So how many of those leads are you converting to actual customers? The subscriber value. So how much is the value of that subscriber to you? It's a bit of a moving target, guys, but often people's email can be worth $5. Every email that you have is worth $5 to a site. That's going to change depending on the industry or what company you're with. But overall, an email, might be worth about $5 per email. The close rate, so how many of those leads are actually turning into users, and then the closed deal value, beyond changing leads into users, how many of them are actually converting as well. With media sites like news sites, we're looking at sessions, we're looking at pages per session because we want people jumping around and going to different pages, looking at different media. And then the engagement rate is obviously important. And then social media, we've kind of seen what the metrics look on social media: likes, shares, posts, average time, and then obviously subscriptions are important as well, so new accounts and followers. And then we can also see the significance of all of these, pretty important depending on what type of website you use or have. That leads us into attribution. Now, attribution is basically the cause or the reason you attribute your success or failure to your digital marketing. So you can follow an attribution pathway to actually figure out whether your digital marketing worked or not, right? So we can throw up ads all the time, but how do we actually know that our ads are working? So I've got a couple of examples here, guys, to talk about attribution. Here's an example from the clothing company Jane. They put a display ad, a banner display ad on the New York Times website, trying to drive traffic from New York Times to their website to get sales. So we can see the attribution path there: New York Times, Jane website, and then the sale. But do we know exactly that this ad is successful or not? Like, we can compare people's paths, people's journey to get to where they got with the sale. Did they come from the Jane website? But we also want to know, like, is there anything happening on the website that's creating value for the customer and causing that conversion? So, we need to track who saw the ad, who didn't see the ad, how quickly they went and made a purchase. This is where A/B testing comes in. We saw A/B testing with the Netflix analytics. A/B testing is very handy in digital marketing to test your ads to correctly attribute what is the most effective strategy for you to use. Here's an example of it. So this is an email conversion funnel. We talked about funnels a little bit, but this gives you a good example of a funnel. So this is, it doesn't matter what company it is, but it's basically a company that sent out two different versions of the same email, an email A and an email B version. This is the email funnel here. So we can see at the top, we've got the send quantity. So that's how many emails were sent total at the start of the campaign. So we can see for the A test, email A, there was 1,000 emails sent out. And then email B also had 1,000 emails sent out. So they started equal in terms of comparison. Then we get to the next stage, which is the bounce rate. So you guys might know if an email bounces, basically it gets sent back. So these are all of the emails that are no longer functional, not working, any emails that bounce back. So we can see that email B, the subscriber list for email B probably needs updating because they had 5% bounce rate. That means that 5% of those email addresses didn't work, right? So email A, we know that subscriber list is probably more up to date. We probably need to go through email B subscriber list and update those emails. The next thing we get to is the open rate. So of the emails that we sent and that didn't bounce back, how many did people open? So basically, like they went into their email and opened up the email. So we can see for email A, 25% of the people that were left opened that email. So other people's emails might have gone to spam. They might not have even seen it. Maybe they don't use email that much. So only 250 people from the A test opened their emails. Where email B, 300 people opened it. So even though the B list might be a little bit outdated, there's more active users within that subscriber list. Which takes us down to, guys, our CTR, which is our click-through rate. So once we get to CTR, basically people have opened the email and now they're clicking on the link in the email, which will take them to the website that we're advertising for. So we've got our CTR. We can see there, email A, we had 25 people click on the link, and email B, 25% of the people clicked on the link. And then we go down to our last one here, guys, which is the conversion rate. And we can see that email A had a 1.2% conversion rate, and email B had a 2% conversion rate. So the question at the top there is, which email was more effective in this situation? Instinctually, guys, you might look at the conversion rate and say email B was more effective. We had 20 conversions, which was a 2% conversion rate. But this is what we're talking about in terms of some of these pathways not being as intuitive as you would think, because once we get to click-through rate, people click on the link in the email, then they go to your website. When they get to the website, any number of factors that might influence their actual conversion, their actual purchase of something. Maybe the website design puts them off. Maybe the landing page doesn't give them enough information. Maybe they just get bored and leave the website. So when we're thinking about an email campaign, click-through rate is actually more important, because the click-through rate tells us exactly how people reacted to the email and we got them to do exactly what we wanted to do from the email. When it then comes to conversion rate, that could be influenced by other things. So if we're thinking about an email conversion funnel, CTR is going to be more important, and we can see that email A was actually the more effective one there. It had 10% of the users actually clicking through there. So that's a good example of how that pathway doesn't always give you the full picture. Just looking at a couple of strategies that KPIs can be used, or how we can strategize from them. So if we look at this information here, we've got the type of metric here and the numbers here. How would we calculate conversion rate? We would say the number of conversions divided by the number of sessions. So how many times people have been on the website divided, how many purchases were made divided by how many times people have been on the website. And we would end up with 2.5% conversion rate, which, as we've mentioned already, is actually not a bad conversion rate. Anything above 2.5 in around the 3% mark on average is usually pretty good for conversion rate. We're thinking about revenue per purchase. We've got our total revenue divided by the total number of conversions, so per sale, essentially. So we've got 1,025 divided by 20 gives us $51. That's our revenue per purchase. And then if we think about the revenue per session, obviously that's the total sessions. So the revenue we've made divided by the sessions, which gives us 127. Now, when we think about what we do with this, should we expand the advertising campaign? Should we increase the revenue per session and try and maybe decrease the costs, or try and do something to increase the revenue per session? Or should we try and increase conversion? So one thing we need to look at here is that our revenue per session is $1.27, and our CPC, our cost per click, so that's how much we're paying to drive people to our website, is $1.05. So even though we've got a good conversion rate and our revenue per purchase seems okay, we're actually only per session because we're paying $1.25 for everybody that goes to the website. So in this situation, we probably want to increase our conversion. That's going to bump everything up so that we've got a higher conversion rate, and that is going to increase our revenue. Let's just have a look at another one here, looking at lead generation. So guys, thinking about the closed deal value. So we've got our revenue per close. So per sale, how much we made, our revenue. And then we've got the cost of that. So $120 is the value to close that lead, right? If we think about revenue per session, we actually don't have the number of sessions here, but we can imply that from the CPC and the conversion rate. So our revenue per session is $500. Revenue per close is $500. Then if we extrapolate the conversion rate and the close rate, and we say it's out of 1,000, for example, we could say that there's 80 leads and 16 closes, which is giving us $500 per close. So we can use those numbers here, 8% and 2%, and times that by our revenue per close, and that's going to give us the revenue per session, which is $8. And then we can do the same thing for our closed deal value. So that's the closed value per session, or profit per session. And that's going to be $1.92. So again, guys, if we look at our options here, we're making $1.92 every time we sell something on a lead that we've got. We're actually paying $2 per click. So we're actually paying more than we're making here. So our campaign is not actually doing very well for us here. So we're not going to expand it. If we increase the close rate, we're going to do better there. But also if we increase the conversion, we're going to do better there. So we need to take steps to do those things. The key takeaway here, guys, is if the profit per session is high, we get more traffic. If the profit per session is low, we need to improve our conversion. Okay, that takes us on to our very last part, guys, which is talking about how we create user personas or a target market based on the data that we collect about people from smart devices, from websites, from all of the different areas that we are able to collect information on our users from. So this is what we're trying to get to, a user persona, a fictionalized representation of your target market. So essentially, a user persona represents your average customer. It's basically all of your customers tied up into one average customer. And it's going to include things like demographics, geographics, their behavior, psychographics, and technographics as well, which, guys, I think if you've done other classes like 116, you would know that demographics include things like age, generation, occupation, income range, family, education. Geographics is essentially where you live, what time zone you're in, what cultural group you're from. Behavioral is connected to your buying habits. So how much money you spend, your purchase history, your loyalties, and your product influences. Psychographics is all to do with your opinions and values. So attitudes, opinions, values, needs, pain points. And then the hobbies and lifestyles that you do because of those values and opinions. And then technographics is probably not one that you have come into before, but it is basically how you use tech. So are you proficient with tech? What platforms What devices do you use? And what influences do you follow? So when we move on for that, just as an example of demographics, we saw the generational demographic. So just to give you an example of some of the things here, guys, obviously we've got a number of different generations. Gen Alpha, who have been born most recently. But if we look at the comparison of like a Generation X, which is my generation, to let's say Generation Z, which is probably most of the people in the class, there's different things that are representative of those generations. Like in music devices is one I always like to go to. A Walkman. I got a Walkman when I was 6 years old. My dad got it for me. Where Generation Z now are using Spotify. So we can see, some of the sort of representative ideas that make up those demographics for those generations. And just coming back to technographics here, guys, obviously we're thinking about what websites people are on, what data do they share online, in their tech stack, what platforms are they using, and then how and when do they use the tech stack. And guys, if you don't know what a tech stack is all of the different tech platforms that you would use, like your Spotify's, like your Apple Music's, all of those different things. And then obviously, how quickly do you adapt? Are you an early adapter or a late adapter of technology? And guys, that can help us in a number of ways. We can have focused targeting based on that, like what sites people use. We could say if someone was a sports fan, we would potentially target them on a sports site. We could make more personalized messaging if we know, lots of information about them. We can customize that. We can make sure that emails are not spam. And then there's the ability to increase the potential of customization of conversion. Sorry. To this guy, if we look at some of the demographics for this user persona, we could say that he's in and around 25 years old, Gen Z. He's a student potentially, so he's not making a ton of money per year. He's single, probably has some high school. He lives in Canada in the PST time zone, but he's got Mexican heritage. He's an online shopper who loves tech. He uses a lot of Apple and Spotify and Amazon, but he's a progressive thinker. He values convenience. Obviously, because he's a student, is going to be a pain point. He does like to snowboard. He's also very tech proficient. He's a digital native, as they say. Uses TikTok and Instagram on his iPhone. Loves Mr. Beast and Marquise Brownlee, who is a tech influencer. So, guys, we can see here we've created a user persona using all of these different areas to sum up this guy. We don't have this information specifically, but just from looking at him, we could maybe predict some of these things. Here's another example. Kayla, she's a planner. Obviously, she is in between the ages of 25 and 34. She's making more money. She's got a medium to high tech proficiency, but she likes to go to events. So the company looking to target her as a user persona. She likes when company like Ticketmaster, for example. We've got a couple of core needs here and pain points. But guys, this is a good example. A lot of companies like to name their user persona, create an AI image of their user persona. It just gives a bit more detail, a bit more nuance to who you're actually targeting. And then their digital marketing team would go in and actually say, okay, here's our user persona. This is our target customer. How are we going to reach them? Okay, that is all for that lesson, guys. We obviously have our quiz for Chapter 3 this week, so make sure you complete that Chapter 3 quiz. And then we also have the activity for Week 2, which is going in and creating your own user profile or user persona for one of those companies. So you've got the 8 companies there. You need to go in and create a detailed user persona for those companies. You can do that based on any information you know already. You could do it based on information that you find online, but you have to create a user persona that matches up to one of those companies. So good luck, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. My email is epi@okanagan.bc.ca, and we will see you next week.